Good evening, everybody. Today we're going to look at a case analysis on Sunsweet growers on their supply chain management and how did they overcome all their difficulties, uh, probably the inefficient management uh, concepts and everything, and how did they come out of it. Let's look at so a small introduction about the Sunsweet growers. This case study actually highlights on how sometimes an excess supply chain cost are not about warehousing and transportation, but can be attributable to inefficiencies in manufacturing or production, and often at the root of it all, the forecasting and planning. Sunsweet Growers is the world's largest, biggest producer of dried fruits, and a little over a decade ago, it found that while it was managing the distribution operations, well, the high production costs were inflating, and the end-to-end supply chain expenditure, and was also looking for ways to drive down the inventory cost, improve the order lead time, and also reduce the transportation cost in turn. Um, Yes, the supply chain cost reduction challenge. When the leadership at Sunsweet looked into the company's production cost issues, recognition soon dawned that the distribution network was at least partly behind the problems. So as a result, the company looked at basically the how it could redesign the network to take out some of the production cost. Later, it became apparent that although a redesign would yield some benefits, one of the most important or the significant issues that was an approach to demand forecasting, and also the limited raw material availability with them, basically they are into high seasonal demand products with relatively a low margin effect products, and also the biggest problem Sunsweet was using is a manual forecasting approach, with spreadsheets being the only technology which involved. So as such, the inefficiency of this approach, proved not only to hamper the effective forecasting, but also the inefficiency in the planning production functioning, but the knock effect of what was an excess of warehouses in the network. So forecasting proved to be both a driver of production cost, and a key to improving the distribution network. What actually the effects of this case was, what are the constraints basically Sunsweet growers are facing in their supply chain, and what are the solutions you need to take up to improve the forecasting and planning in Sunsweet growers. The how it could be reduced, what the path to cost reduction. As a number of other studies we have explored, the technology plays a very predominant role in solving the sweet growers problem. After evaluating some 30 different solutions, the company finally settled down on a supply chain planning suite and plan its improvement program. To make use of all the solutions modules in sequence, allowing ROI to be realized in phases as each module was implemented and leveraged. At the same time, Sunsweet also implemented a sales and operation planning program that once established enabled plant resource requirements to be anticipated month rather than weeks in advance. A month prior to it, it would know what is the requirement. As an overall improvement plan passed through these five phases of what they has implemented, the positive results accumulated, and as hoped, software ROI reached a high percent even before the company completed its full implementation. And yes, of course, coming back to the conclusion, so when it comes to making supply chain cost reductions that stick, one should explore every avenues that is available. That's not merely to achieve 100% ROI in its supply chain planning program, but still, the aim was to reduce the production cost, the high cost. There will be usually one major factor which strongly affects is the innovation. So creativity in whatever you do, in creativity in whatever you perform, everything is like you have to a better design thinking approach, that is calculating things prior to whatever. Forecasting things prior is much the need of the hour. So whether it could be your network, your inventory strategy, your working relationship with your supply chain partners, or any other element for it matter, for your operations or production, it requires an innovation. To quantify some figures, it could reduce the forecasting accuracy, it could reduce the production facilities. Say for example, 25% to 28% of your overtime could be reduced. And so from all these above facts, highlighted facts, it could be brought in, or it could be penned down, saying that Sunsweet growers has to take up more has to aim on to reduce their production cost. And this could be done only with inculcating technology into their supply chain, because today data analytics plays a major or a very predominant role in the entire structure of the market. So once, if that is going to happen with the Sunsweet growers also, definitely they will have a mathematical reducing the cost of savings, which they would want in their organization as a final output for their um, supply chain cost minimization. So with this, we come to a conclusion of what how the supply chain cost could be reduced by Sunsweet growers. So